As the sheriff, as a father, and as a grandfather, I can stand here and say there's no reason for a father to murder his children.
Zebulon man has been arrested after 4 children were found dead inside the trunk of a car inside his garage.
October 27th, 2025. A quiet Sunday evening in Zebulon, North Carolina. Spring Tooth Drive. The kind of street where families wave at each other, where kids ride bikes, where nothing ever happens. Until it did. 38-year-old Wellington Delano Dickens III picked up his phone and dialed 911. What he told the operator would shatter an entire community and expose a nightmare that had been festering for months. 4 bodies, hidden in the trunk of a car, inside his garage. 1 child found alive inside the house. 5 months of silence. 5 months of neighbors going about their lives, completely unaware that just beyond their fences, behind closed doors, something unspeakable was happening. No screams, no police visits, no welfare checks. Just a father, his children, and a secret so dark it would take a confession to bring it into the light. But here's what makes this case even more disturbing. Wellington didn't confess because someone found out. He confessed because he couldn't carry it anymore. What you're about to hear will make you question everything you think you know about the people living next door. Welcome to Shadows of Crime. I'm your host, and today we're breaking down one of the most horrifying cases of 2025. A case where isolation, grief, and violence collided in the worst possible way. If this story shakes you, hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from today. Your engagement helps us bring these stories to light and keeps the conversation going. Let's get into it. The 911 call lasted nearly 7 minutes. 7 minutes of Wellington Delano Dickens III calmly explaining how he murdered his own children. No hysteria. No breakdown. Just a man on the other end of the line, speaking like he was confessing to forgetting to pay a bill. The operator asked the obvious questions. What's your name? What's your address? What's going on? Wellington answered every single one. Clear. Cooperative. Almost too cooperative. I killed my children. It's a lot to explain, but in a nutshell, it's all my fault.
Okay, sir, what's going on?
I killed my children. It's a lot to explain, but in a nutshell, it's all my fault. I'm not even gone.
He continued. I didn't like hurt them, like, when I say just kill, I didn't like use knives or nothing to cut nobody or shoot nobody or nothing. It started out as me over-disciplining. Over-disciplining. That's the word he used. Like he grounded them too hard. Like he took away their phones. Not what he actually did. He kept talking. I beat on them sometimes. They didn't want to eat. I didn't force them to eat. I told them that it was a punishment not to eat. I did a bunch of different little things.
I beat on them sometimes. They didn't want to eat. I didn't force them to eat. I told them that it was a punishment not to eat. I did a bunch of different little things.
A bunch of different little things. That's how he described it. Casual, matter of fact, like he was listing chores he'd completed. The operator needed specifics. She needed to know what she was sending deputies into. So she asked, "How did you do it?" Wellington didn't hesitate. Leaving them out to eat, leaving the stuff out to utilize stuff. He was withholding food, starving his own children as punishment, and he was calling it discipline. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Wellington wasn't just confessing, he was justifying. He was trying to control the narrative, or trying to make it sound less horrific than it was. He mentioned trying to call a lawyer earlier, said he should have called more lawyers. He talked about turning himself in without it being extra. Without it being extra. Sir, you have 4 dead children. It's already extra. The operator asked how old the children were. Wellington listed them off. The oldest is my stepson. He's 18. And then I got the other one is 10. That's my oldest son. Then I have a 9-year-old daughter. And I got a 5-year-old daughter. Wait, 5-year-old daughter? But the victims found were 6, 9, 10, and 18. He was mixing up ages in his own confession. Either way, he kept talking. And I have a son here, now on my bed. There it was, the 3-year-old, alive, in the room with him, while he's confessing to murdering his siblings. Oh, the operator asked if anyone else was with him. Just me and my son. Just me and my son. Like it was a normal Monday night. Like his toddler wasn't sitting there while his father calmly explained how he killed everyone else in the family. She asked if he had weapons. He said no. Offered to come outside in his underwear if they needed him to. If you want me to, I'll come outside in my underwear. I don't know what y'all need me to be. I'm willing to do whatever you need me to do. I never had this in my life, you know. Never had this in his life. Murder. Yeah, most people don't. The operator asked if he'd been drinking or using drugs. He said he smoked and had a sip of champagne. That's it. So he was sober, fully aware, fully in control of what he was saying. Then she asked the question everyone wanted answered. What made you want to do this? Wellington's response will make your skin crawl. It's really not. It wasn't up to me. Like, I had God just influence me. Like, that's it. It wasn't me because I got nervous, and I didn't do it when I was supposed to, and I was being a coward, and I just was trying to let my children, you know what I'm saying? When that was me, I was supposed to make those decisions, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and I just can't take it no more.
And what made you want to do this?
It's really not, it wasn't up to me. Like, I had God just influenced me. Like, that's it. It wasn't me because I got nervous and I didn't do it when I was supposed to, and I was being a coward.
God told him to do it. That's what he said. Like there was some divine timeline he was following, like he was carrying out a mission. The operator told him there was a deputy outside. He acknowledged it, said, "Okay." And just like that, the call ended. Wellington walked outside, surrendered to the deputies waiting in his driveway, and led them straight to the garage. What they found inside that trunk would confirm every horrifying word he'd just said. Wellington Delano Dickens III wasn't always a monster, at least not on paper. Iraq war veteran, father of 5, widower trying to hold his family together after unimaginable loss. From the outside, he was just another guy on Spring Tooth Drive dealing with grief. But behind closed doors, something else was happening, something nobody saw coming. Wellington came back from Iraq different. His great-uncle would later say he'd been struggling mentally ever since his deployment. The kind of struggle that doesn't just go away, the kind that festers. Then life started hitting him with loss after loss. 2023. His father died in a car crash, gone just like that. 2024. His wife, Stephanie Ray Jones Dickens, died suddenly at home on April 21st. She was 37 years old, 3 months pregnant. The cause? Complications from a miscarriage. According to Wellington, Stephanie had experienced severe bleeding the night before her death, but refused to seek medical treatment. By morning, she was gone. Stephanie wasn't just his partner. She was the backbone of the entire family. She homeschooled all 5 children. She cooked. She cleaned. She kept the house running. She was everything. And when she died, Wellington was left alone with 5 kids and no clue how to hold it all together. Deborah Riley lived next door. She watched the changes happen in real time. He became more of a recluse, she said. You just never saw him outside as much. You never saw the children outside as much.
Became more of a recluse, I guess maybe the appropriate word. You just never saw him outside as much. You never saw the children outside as much. He did state that his wife was more or less the backbone of the family, that she took care of the children, she homeschooled them, prepared the meals, took care of the household.
Wellington told her that Stephanie had been the one who took care of everything. The meals, the homeschooling, the household. Without her, he was lost. The kids, they were homeschooled, kept close to the house. After their mother died, they practically disappeared from view. Sherry Burton lived on the other side of Wellington's house. She started noticing things, little things at first. Wellington was doing yard work, but it was strange. He started to leave a lot to rot from the ground up, she said, probably about knee-high on the ground. The grass was getting wild. The property was looking neglected. But that wasn't the worst part.
It's been nerve-wracking. It's been emotional. He started to leave his garage door up from the ground up, probably about 2 inches off the ground. Because he said it almost made him, but I even got to throw up.
Her son, Dakota, smelled it first. "So boy, something's dead over there," he told his mother. That smell. You know the one. The kind that sits in the back of your throat. The kind you can't ignore once you've noticed it. Dakota mentioned it again and again. But what are you supposed to do? March over to your neighbor's house and accuse them of what exactly? So Sherry brushed it off. Meanwhile, Deborah next door was dealing with her own gut feeling. She didn't see the kids anymore, didn't hear them playing. The house was too quiet for a home with 5 children. But Wellington wasn't exactly giving off dangerous vibes. He was grieving. He was struggling. He was a widower, trying to raise his kids alone. So she gave him space. She didn't want to intrude. "The way the world is, it's just not the way it used to be," she'd say later. "Where you talk to your neighbors, you check on them. That's something I'll regret." That regret would hit different once she found out what was happening 10 feet from her front door. Because while the neighbors were smelling death and wondering if maybe an animal died under the porch, Wellington Dickens was living with 4 dead children in his garage. 4. And he was going about his day like everything was fine, taking care of the 3-year-old, doing yard work, existing in a house where half his kids were gone, and nobody on the outside had a clue. But what neighbors didn't know was that Wellington wasn't just grieving. He was hiding something far worse. 4 futures erased. And here's the thing that makes this case even more disturbing. These kids were invisible. They were homeschooled, all 5 of them. No teachers seeing them every day. No school nurses noticing bruises or behavioral changes. No counselors checking in. No classmates asking where they'd been. They didn't go to soccer practice. They didn't have play dates. They didn't ride the bus. They were kept close to the house, isolated from the outside world. And when their mother died in April 2024, that isolation became total. Wellington was their only caregiver, their only contact with the outside world. And nobody was checking to make sure they were okay. But here's the kicker. This wasn't the first time Wellington had been accused of hurting a child. 2015, 10 years before these murders. Wellington was charged with misdemeanor child abuse, a documented history, a red flag waving in the wind. But the charge was dismissed. Why? Because the victim didn't show up to court. So there was no conviction. No record that would have triggered a welfare check or an investigation. Nothing that would have put these children on anyone's radar. The system had a chance to intervene, and it didn't. Fast forward to 2025. 5 children living in a house with a father who was struggling. A father who had lost his wife, his support system, his anchor. And between May and September 2025, 4 of those children died. One by one. Separately. Over the course of 5 months. How does a father kill 4 kids over 5 months and nobody notices? Was it the homeschooling that made them invisible? Was it the neighbors who smelled death but didn't call the police? Was it the system that dismissed a child abuse charge 10 years earlier and never followed up? Or was it all of it? A perfect storm of isolation, neglect, and failure that allowed 4 children to die in silence? How a father kill 4 kids over 5 months and nobody does notices. Drop your theory in the comments. Was it the system, the neighbors, or something else? For Wellington Dickens killed his children separately, one by one, over the course of 5 months, and after each death, he made a choice. He chose to hide the body. He chose to keep living. He chose to continue.
The 4 children discovered in the trunk of a car in Johnston County had been murdered at different times.
Leah Dickens, 6 years old, the youngest daughter. She was the first to die. Zoe Dickens, 9 years old, late August or early September 2025. Wellington Dickens IV, 10 years old, the boy who carried his father's name. Sean Brassfield, 18 years old, the stepson. 4 bodies, all in the trunk of a Honda Civic, in the garage of a suburban home, decomposing for months. Wellington admitted to beating his children. He admitted to withholding food as punishment. He admitted to over-disciplining. But let's be clear, this wasn't discipline. This was torture. This was murder. He starved them. He beat them. He taped their mouths shut. And when they died, he stuffed their bodies in a car trunk and went about his life. The medical examiner hasn't released the official causes of death. The autopsy reports are sealed as part of the ongoing investigation. But Wellington's own words paint the picture. Beatings, starvation, suffocation. 4 children. 4 separate deaths. 4 separate choices to hide the bodies and keep living. And here's what makes it even more disturbing. Wellington wasn't just hiding in his house, paralyzed by guilt. He was living his life, taking care of the 3-year-old, doing yard work, existing like everything was normal. Neighbors saw him outside. They waved. They made small talk. They had no idea that just inside his garage, 4 bodies were rotting in a car trunk. Wellington was living a double life. While 4 bodies decomposed in his garage, Wellington Dickens was on Grindr. Let that sink in. Grindr, a dating app for gay and bisexual men. And Wellington wasn't just scrolling. So he was actively inviting people over, to his house, the same house where his children's bodies were rotting 20 feet away. This detail came out months later, in January 2026, when investigators executed search warrants on Wellington's phones and computers. What they found was disturbing. Text messages, lots of them, showing that multiple people had visited the home between May and September 2025. The exact time frame when the murders were happening. These weren't just casual conversations. Wellington was hosting dates, bringing strangers into his house, while his 3-year-old son was inside, while 4 bodies were decomposing in the garage. The level of compartmentalization you'd need to pull that off? To kill a child, hide the body, and then invite someone over for a date? That's not grief. That's not post-traumatic stress. That's something else entirely. But it gets worse. Investigators didn't just find evidence of Wellington's social life. They found evidence of a cover-up. Blood. Chemical tests detected blood in the house. Blood that had been painted over. Wellington had ordered paint from Amazon. Not just any paint. Stained ceiling paint. The kind you use to cover up something you don't want anyone to see. He was trying to hide the evidence, trying to mask what had happened, trying to make it look like everything was normal. But you can't hide decomposition. He kept living, kept hosting dates, kept painting over blood, kept pretending like everything was fine. Until October 27th, 2025, when he finally picked up the phone and confessed. By then, the bodies had been in that trunk for months. The decomposition was so advanced that positive identification required the state medical examiner's office. 4 children, hidden in plain sight. In a neighborhood where people waved at each other, where families lived, where nobody expected this kind of horror. Would you have said something if you were the neighbor? Or would you have minded your business? Be honest in the comments. When deputies entered the house on Spring Tooth Drive, they found something they weren't sure they'd find. A survivor, a 3-year-old boy, alive. Scared, but alive. While 4 of his siblings lay dead in a car trunk just outside the house, this little boy had somehow made it through 5 months of horror. He was underweight, dehydrated. But physically, he was okay. No serious injuries. No signs of the beatings his siblings had endured. Emergency medical teams rushed him to the hospital for a full evaluation. Doctors confirmed what deputies had hoped. He was going to be fine, at least physically. But here's the question everyone's asking. Why did he survive when 4 others didn't? The children who died ranged from 6 to 18 years old. They were older, more aware, more able to resist or question what was happening. The 3-year-old? He was too young to fight back, too young to ask questions, too young to be seen as a threat. Sometimes in cases like this, the youngest children are spared because they're completely dependent. They can't report what they see. They can't tell anyone what's happening. Maybe that's why Wellington let him live. What we do know is this. That little boy is now in the custody of the Department of Social Services. He's safe. He's being cared for by people who understand trauma. He's receiving counseling, therapy, support from a community that wants to see him heal. But let's be real. This child lost everything. His mother died in childbirth. His father is in prison for murder. His 4 siblings are gone. He has no parents, no family. Just memories of a house where half his siblings disappeared and nobody came to help. That's the weight he'll carry for the rest of his life. When crime scene investigators entered Wellington's home, they found a house frozen in time, empty bunk beds, toys scattered around, a home that looked lived in, but felt like a tomb. Outside in the garage, the trunk of a Honda Civic held the answer to 5 months of silence. 4 bodies, badly decomposed, layered on top of each other like they didn't even matter. The North Carolina State Medical Examiner's office was called in. The bodies were carefully removed and transported for autopsy. But as of now, those autopsy results remain sealed. No official cause of death has been released. The investigation is still active. Evidence is still being processed. What we do know is this. Wellington Delano Dickens III was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. Wellington made his first court appearance on October 28, 2025. He was calm, quiet, the same demeanor he had on that 911 call. A judge ruled that he would be held without bond, no bail, no getting out. He'll remain locked up in the Johnston County Jail until his case is resolved. A public defender was appointed to represent him. His next court date is scheduled for November 13, 2025. At a press conference, Johnston County Sheriff Steve Bizzle addressed the media. He was visibly shaken. "There is no reason for a father to murder his children," he said. "No motive has been identified. No explanation that makes sense." Wellington claimed God influenced him. He claimed it was over-disciplining. He claimed he was a coward who let things get worse. But none of that explains why 4 children are dead. 4 children died over 5 months, and nobody knew. How does that happen? Let's start with homeschooling. All 5 children were homeschooled. No one making sure the children are safe, fed, or even alive. And that's exactly how Wellington got away with it for so long. But the system failed these children long before 2025. Remember that 2015 child abuse charge, the one that got dismissed because the victim didn't show up to court? That was a red flag. a documented history of concern. But because the charge was dismissed, there was no conviction. No record that would have triggered follow-up. No reason for social services to check in. The system had a chance to intervene 10 years earlier, and it didn't. North Carolina's Child Protective Services has serious problems. The state is severely understaffed. Social workers are overwhelmed with too many cases. Many counties still use paper files instead of digital records. So what do we learn from this? How do we make sure it never happens again? First, homeschool oversight needs to change. To require annual doctor visits for every child. Verify that all siblings are alive and accounted for. Conduct unannounced welfare checks. Make homeschooled children visible to someone outside the home. Second, neighbors need to trust their instincts. If you smell something foul, if children suddenly disappear from view, if a family becomes completely isolated, say something. You can report anonymously. Your call could save a life. Third, mental health support for veterans and grieving parents needs to be mandatory. Wellington was an Iraq war veteran who lost his father and his wife within 2 years. He should have been flagged for counseling. Widowers raising children alone should have automatic check-ins. Fourth, technology companies need accountability. Apps like Grindr should flag suspicious activity patterns. Law enforcement needs faster access to digital evidence through swift subpoenas. Finally, Child Protective Services need serious reform. Digital records that follow families across county lines. More staff, better training. Coordination between schools, hospitals, and social services. These children deserved better. The 3-year-old survivor deserves better. We can't bring back Leah, Zoe, Wellington IV, or Sean. But we can make sure their deaths weren't for nothing. That's the hope in this horror. But here's the question that should keep you up at night. How many more children are invisible right now? How many more families are hiding horrors behind closed doors? How many neighbors are ignoring their gut feelings because they don't want to get involved? If this case taught us anything, it's that silence kills. So here's what I need you to do. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video. Drop a comment below. Tell us what you think. Tell us where you're watching from. Because your voice matters. Your awareness matters. Your willingness to speak up could save a life. Thanks for watching Shadows of Crime. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and never ignore the signs.